Hello, welcome to English for Everyone, where we practice real-life American English. Today we're going to learn to avoid a common mistake, so let's get started. This is not correct. We cannot say an advice. The word advice is not a countable noun, so we cannot say an advice. We just say advice.
I can give advice, but I'm afraid it's going to be blunt.
I teach literature. I don't give advice.
So we don't tend to give advice on how to get your boyfriend to commit.
I don't do things, I give advice.
Because the word advice is not countable, the most common way to use it is with some advice. Let me give you some advice. Let me give you some good advice. You cannot say a good advice because it's not countable. Use some advice or some good advice.
Can I give you some advice?
I'd appreciate that.
Can I give you some advice?
Can I offer you some advice, sister to sister?
Well, that's some good advice.
Some advice about keeping secrets.
Over this domain you rule, but let me give you some good advice.
Example, he's giving his son some advice. He's giving his son some good advice. Let's practice. What is he doing? Is he giving his son some good advice? That's right, he's giving his son some good advice. So it's not correct to say an advice or a good advice. Does that mean we can never count the word advice? No, we can count it. If you really want to count the word, you say a piece of advice.
Let me give you a piece of advice.
Let me give you a piece of advice here.
Let me give you a piece of advice.
Can I give you a piece of advice?
Let me give you all a piece of advice.
Top 5 worst pieces of advice from people who don't know what they're talking about.
India.
Okay, well, those are all good pieces of advice. I really appreciate it.
Before I went off to college at Yale, he gave me 3 pieces of advice.
Example, his father gave him one very good piece of advice. One very important piece of advice. Let's practice. Did his father give him one very good piece of advice? That's right, his father gave him one very good piece of advice. So remember, the word advice is not countable. We cannot say an advice or a good advice. The most common way to use the word is with some advice. And if you really want to count it, you can count it by saying a piece of advice. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, subscribe to our channel. And if you want to become a member, click the join button. And we'll see you next time.